Okay, here we are in the summer. It's a time to relax. It's a time to regroup. It's a time to spend time with people. And it's also time to catch up on reading. And so today, we're going to talk about a beach read that I think will have a lot of interest for anybody listening. Joining us today is Juan Bendaña. He was the keynote speaker at last year's NACS Show. Very well received. Turns out he has a book coming out on August 5th. We're going to get a preview of that, and we're going to tell you everything you need to know so you can hit click, get it, and get inspired about what you need to do around confidence, which is our topic today. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeff. I'm excited to chat.
So I had teed up the topic of the moment is confidence. Do you want to kind of walk us through, before we get into some of what the book's about, why it's of interest and why confidence is important? How did this book come about?
It came about from a napkin in a coffee shop, in that I was, working with different organizations and associations and trying to find a way to answer the question of how do we consistently grow? How do we move toward our goals without burning out, without being exhausted, without comparing ourselves to people on our left and right? And I was like, there has to be a version of this, because I stumbled upon this idea of confidence that I felt was the answer to the step before leadership, the step before resilience, the step before making a change in your life. You need to have the confidence to do it. But I was like, what is the system here? Like, how can we actually make this happen and make it happen in a sustainable way? And I basically drew this thing called the confidence cycle on a napkin, and I was super excited about it. And I was going to an event in Oregon, and it was like 100 leaders in the room. And I just said, I was like, y'all, I had something prepared, but can I walk you through this thing? And they had like one of those like flip charts, those things. And I just kind of drew it for them. And that was sort of the initial spark. And there was a PhD researcher in the room that they were like, you should probably, like, this is an unbelievable model. You should get some research behind it. So we got a research team and then put this sort of into a proposal. And that was kind of the birthplace of what is now Confident by Choice. We changed the title, but the confidence cycle still remains is the model within the book. That was kind of the beginning essence of it.
So I want to go back to the origin of this, because I think then it will apply to how people can learn from this. Now, first off, it would have been awesome if that was coffee at a convenience store, but I don't know if you can change it. We'll fix it in post. We'll just have you say convenience store at the end. We'll throw it in there and we'll alter history. So you have to have a lot of confidence to say, okay, I have a prepared presentation, and I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to show you a napkin and talk about it, and that I think I'm making the right decision. I think it's interesting, and I think I can pull this off without graphics and the way presentations are now. People expect to stare at screens, and you had to captivate them by walking through this with, okay, I might not have the presentation you expect, but it's going to be really awesome. Mm-hmm. So what was the process in saying, yeah, part of me is saying that's not your lane, or what was it that made you say, I do have the confidence to do this?
I think it was a culmination of things that had started years before, where I was that kid in high school that used to be terrified of speaking in front of groups. I was terrified of and had this desire to be liked by everyone. So I would sort of become a chameleon. Because I didn't fit neatly into one box, I molded myself to fit into every box. So I would hang out with the drama kids. Then I would kind of shape-shift a little bit and then go hang out with the soccer team, and then hang out with the photography class, and then hang out with the break dancers. There was literally a group of friends that all knew how to break dance, and I did not. But they were all some of my closest friends in the world. So I think over time I learned that in order to build sustainable confidence in something, in an area, I needed to give it energy. And presenting was one of those things where I was like, I want to figure this out. And everyone in my life told me it was a weakness. So then I started thinking, I was like, wait, what if weaknesses are just potential strengths waiting for the investment of energy? So I started to invest into presenting. At first, it was in front of 2 people, then in front of 5, then in front of 15, and then in front of 25. And then it just started to snowball from there. So after that, once we got to that point with the napkin, I'd already gone through the confidence cycle before I even knew it, and had already prepared myself to deliver with confidence, because I think sometimes people want to feel confident with no proof. And oftentimes that can actually be just delusion or arrogance. Like, we need to have proof of efficacy. We have to have proof of we are who we say we are based on our past history, based on experience. So I think that what allowed me in that moment to show up with confidence was all of the moments and all of the proof that I had stacked leading up to that day.
So you mentioned break dancing, so I'm going to follow on that trend. The woman in the Olympics from Australia, was that confidence, or was that something else that put her on that stage?
I think it was confidence, and it's funny because a lot of people ask me about that whole experience, because sometimes there's two sort of, not to get too nerdy about it, but there's two sort of lanes to confidence according to the research dating back to 1970. One is self-efficacy, which is the belief in your ability. Meaning, if you're a golfer and you can be a scratch golfer, you have a lot of self-efficacy because you know you're good at the sport. So that's very much so rooted in ability. A lot of people talk about confidence competent loop. That's that lane. But there's another lane, which many people don't talk about, which is self-esteem, which means the esteem you have for yourself, the way you see yourself, your self-image. The challenge is sometimes people have a level 10 efficacy, but a level 2 esteem, and it's not lined up, or vice versa. They don't have a whole lot of skill set. They don't have a lot of efficacy. They're not like an amazing break dancer, but they have a ton of self-esteem. So is that confidence? Sort of, but our goal should really be to line both of those things up to make sure that we have a great ability in what we're trying to do, that we're good, that we're growing, but then also that we have a proportional sense of self, a proportional view of who we are. Because if you're no good at something, but you think you're amazing, that's arrogance. But if there's a lot of great leaders that I chat with all the time, where they're so good, they just don't believe they are. They have a level 10 efficacy. They're so good. I'm sure you've seen this. They're so good. They're such a great leader, but they can't convince themselves of it. Their esteem is so low. So we got to bring that up to match both. So I think for her, it was just level 10 esteem to be on the world stage, and maybe the efficacy could use a little work, well, to say the least.
Made her famous. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, that's
the thing. Like, it's so funny. People are like, "Oh my gosh, so embarrassing." I'm like, that catapulted her, whether in a way that she didn't want to or not. But I'm sure she's been able to build a great career and business out of that experience. If she turned that into, she could either make that mean I'm a failure, I'm horrible, the world's against me, or this is an opportunity to use it and to run with it. That's cool. Let's go.
Think about how easy it is at some of those icebreaker things where it's like you have to tell the 2 truths and a lie, and she could be like, "Well, I was in the Olympics." Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
So the reason we're talking about confidence is, and the premise of the book, it really impacts how you live your life. And if you have appropriate confidence, you can spread your wings wider. And confidence is great in public speaking, and obviously public speaking, a lot of people are terrified of that. I think that and spiders are tied with things people most dread. But it's how you convey yourself in life. And to a certain extent, I imagine it's also allows you to take advantage of opportunities, because luck is not luck. It's more than that. It's how it led to that moment, like you were talking about with the napkin of that coffee that you got in the convenience store.
Yep.
See how I did that? But so what you talked about is that confidence is not something you're born with. Maybe some people, like you see some babies that are like 4 years old, and it's like, wow, that person needs to be on stage. But that's not confidence. That's swag or something else. But
yes.
So how do you get from not having confidence? And I know that's the whole premise of the book, but like what are the elements where people can say, okay, I can go from confidence level 1 to confidence level 2, and what are the how does that manifest itself in terms of like great things can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe, maybe I'm a little biased, I do believe it is the number one skill, not only for speaking or a tangible goal like that, but even to have a difficult conversation, even to raise your hand in a meeting, even to ask for the raise you deserve, even to lose the 20 pounds because your friends or family are going to think differently of you. I had that experience when I used to be very overweight, and I had binge eating disorder and was 75 pounds overweight. And I remember when I lost the weight, something that should give you proof of confidence. It should be like, oh, I did that. I made that happen. Then I had friends and people in my life saying, like, you got too skinny. What happened to you? You look different. You've changed. So now I had this negative association to the progress that I made. So all to say, our confidence, and yes, like no one is born with confidence, but we are all born with the ability to build it. So how do we actually do that? And I think what would be helpful is to understand where our confidence even is built initially and where our self-doubt comes from. Because when we're kids, we have all the confidence in the world. If you've been around a 5 or 6 year old, you know what I mean. They're like, they can take on the world. They'll say, tag, you're it, with the conviction of, okay, I guess I'm in this game, right? With them, it's very much so you go through experiences that create beliefs. Meaning, let's say a 5-year-old gets up in front of the class and says a joke and no one laughs, and he's embarrassed. Now that is an experience that is shaping his belief. The belief may be, I'm not funny. That was horrible. And then our actions then follow our beliefs. They follow suit. Then it's, I said that, I made a fool of myself. I'm not going to do that again. So what happens is, over time, we have thousands of experiences, thousands of moments, thousands of people we run into that either give us a point for self-doubt or a point for self-confidence. So that teacher that said something to you in the 6th grade that you carried until you were 45, which happens all the time. My teacher, Miss H, I tell a part of her story in the book. My grade 10, my sophomore teacher, English teacher, told me writing is a gift you're born with and you just weren't. You can't communicate well. You shouldn't go into a career that requires you to communicate. And I held on to that. So that was an experience that I then carried with me. So really, what shapes our confidence, the beliefs we have about ourselves and the world. What shapes our belief? The experiences we go through. So that being said, the challenge is a lot of times we have more experiences that give us reasons to doubt ourselves than to feel confident. So it's almost like a scoreboard, right? Where you point for self-doubt, point for self-confidence. The challenge is the majority of us are losing this game. We are getting so many more points for self-doubt than we are for confidence. We need to start turning the game around. We need to start taking some threes from the logo. And how we do that is by, instead of looking at the situations in your life with a lens of what has happened in the past. It's how most people look at their experiences. We have to look at where we'd like to go. What are our goals? It doesn't matter if you went on a 5K run and it only turned into a 1K run and you were out of breath and it hurt. That already happened. Give yourself new evidence is the start of the process of building confidence. Give yourself new evidence. Because if you go on a run every day for a year, after a year, you're going to look back and be like, I guess I'm a runner.
Yeah, I guess putting points on the board, right?
Exactly, putting points on the board.
So also with confidence, even people that put themselves out of their comfort zone. and they say, okay, I'm going to speak, I'm going to go do this. Then there's also the areas where their body language just communicates they're walking backwards, or they're self-deprecating, or things like that. So I imagine that there's also that when you look at confidence, it's like, okay, well, I was confident enough to get on stage, but everything I did on stage showed that I'm not confident.
Yes, for sure.
That's a problem.
And one of the first steps in the confidence cycle is talking about this idea of generating energy. And many people will say, like, Juan, what does energy have to do with confidence? And I go, like, everything, because it's what we lead with, right? I talked about this at the NACS Show, where people meet your energy before they meet you.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to show up with great energy. How do we do that on a tactical level? We need to invest in our energy. And part of that, to your point, is physical energy. How you stand and how you show up into a room. And I always tell people, be responsible for the energy you bring into a room. Be responsible for the kind of energy you bring into a room. And it's not just your body language. If you want to show up engaged or with enthusiasm, let your face know. The amount of times that people are like, I want to be more excited, and they're so stone cold. It's like a part of your of your posture, of your body language, is actually your facial expression as well. So that is one of those places to start where it's like, okay, I want to feel more confident. How am I physically showing up to this meeting, or to this conference, or to this room, or even to the Zoom? Are you bringing some good vibes to the Zoom? Are you bringing good vibes to the Teams? Are you bringing good vibes to the FaceTime call? Like, how are you showing up in those ways? That's really, really important.
I think it's probably also easier for retailers to just think about it. It's not faking till you make it, fake it till you make it. It's not like being somebody you're not. I'd think of it more like customer service. Like when you talk to a customer, you want to think through that person's lens.
Yes.
What are they looking for? Retail is finding what customers want and serving that need, and confidence to a certain extent is the same thing. It's like if people expect you to have a lot of energy, they will replicate that. There are certain times like you probably don't want to do that, have that amazing energy. Shot of espresso, I think, is the word associated with you. You don't want to do that in a more solemn occasion, but it really does light up the room, and it does change the conversation, and it does make something that you're looking, using another sports analogy, to just like run out the clock, to like, okay, let's put those points on the board.
Mm-hmm. And it's the thing we need to realize, especially for making it so that people are excited to come to your store, is the fact that the world we live in is a mirror, not a window. The energy we put out, it's going to come right back to us. So people will go out of their way to connect with you if you create a compelling enough story, and if you create a compelling enough energy that they just want to be a part of. For example, 2 examples. One, disco bathroom. People go out of their way just to be in the energy of that. The other, I was in Texas driving from Dallas to an event. I think it was an hour-and-a-half drive. I detoured to go to a Buc-ee's because the people at the conference told me I could not leave Texas without going. I spent probably 25 minutes there. It changed the way that I felt of that day. It changed my energy. So you got to ask, like, what kind of energy am I creating, and what kind of environment am I facilitating? Where people out there will go out of their way to come see you because, as Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel. So, like, what are you making people feel?
Yeah,
that's really important.
I've been to stores, not in our channel, where you go inside and you hear their fluorescent lights.
Yep.
And it I don't want to say it feels like sadness.
Yeah.
And yes, I'll get whatever I need to go, and I'll get out of here because everybody just feels sad. And when you have the customer experience, you mentioned the disco bathroom. We went to this place earlier this year. We'll show in this year's Ideas to Go videos. it was a speakeasy inside a convenience store. And this is not like it is a high-end food, high-end beverage. And what was amazing is we were filming, and I opened the door, and the door looks like a cooler door. And there's I guess a customer is really regular there. He saw me, he was getting breakfast, and I said, "Do you know what's there?" And he said, "That's probably storage, right?" And I said, "Come with me." And I was with them, so it was okay with the store, so I was able to do this. And I kind of walked him in and let him in there, and there's this velvet drapes, and there's like a walk, and then he goes in there, and he came out, and I couldn't pull his jaw from where it was. He just was like, "This is incredible." He's like, "I can't wait to tell people about that." Mm-hmm. And that's the experience you want. It's not the idea of having a speakeasy. It's not the idea of building a 70,000 square foot Buc-ee's. It's not the idea of having a disco bathroom, but it's the idea of like amping it up a little and knowing that you can do that, and then getting people to respond to it.
See, then I totally agree. And there's this idea that I talk about in terms of the inflection points of energy we have throughout a year. You know, a birthday, a holiday, a concert, a moment in time where we have this boost of energy, a long weekend, 4th of July, whatever it may be, where we have a boost of energy, a conference, the NACS Show. But then everything in between seems like just going through the motions, exhausted. Can it already be Friday? So we want to think through the lens of, how can I be the inflection point of energy for someone else? How can I provide that moment and that experience for other people outside of their day-to-day? Because people have 5, 7, 9, 10 moments like that throughout a year. And if you can be one of them, where it's like, "Oh my gosh, I went to this convenience store," and you would not believe, you're totally right, they can't stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. That gives them this sense of energy. I see energy as sort of this ignition moment, you know, to like start the engine. It is the start of the process of not only building confidence, but also giving other people confidence that, hey, you should come check this out. You should be here. This is pretty cool.
So, final question, and then tell them once again how they can get the book and learn more. You spoke at the NACS Show last year in front of 3,000 people. You spoke in front of big rooms. Do you ever just get up there and say, "Today's the day I forget how to do what I do very well"?
All the time.
So do I.
All the time. I doubt myself constantly. And here's one of the most interesting things that I've like stumbled upon, I guess, in writing this book and in creating it, is that confident people, the difference with them is that instead of running away from challenges, they run toward them. Instead of seeing self-doubt, here's the craziest thing. Confident people, what I've noticed, and doing a study of thousands from high-level executives to someone just coming into an organization, instead of seeing self-doubt as a sign to stop, they see it as a signal to get better. So every time I have one of those moments where I'm like, backstage, I was with the National Auctioneers Association yesterday, 2 days ago in Chicago. And it was like 700-800 professional auctioneers. It was a room of people that are far better at speaking than I am. Like, I was the worst. And talking fast. I was the worst speaker in there. I was like, oh my gosh, and backstage, I'm just thinking, okay, we want to do a good job. We want to show up. But that's the thing. If you want to build confidence, you need to run towards doubt, not see doubt as a sign to stop. See, even if I want to get in great shape, okay, that first few times in the gym, it's going to feel scary. Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to write the book. The first few pages are going to feel daunting. I want to start a nonprofit. The first few days of putting together the structure of the 501c3, like, it's going to be hard to do. I want to do this innovation in my store that I don't know how it's going to go well. This is a Hail Mary project. You have to put yourself into the moment, put yourself into the environment, and have a better relationship with doubt. Have a better relationship with fear. That has been probably the most transformational thing that I've realized, even for myself, of like, oh, when I doubt myself, that doesn't mean that I should stop. That means I'm on the right path.
It also means you care. because I've talked to people and I've asked that same question
100%.
and they all say, and I've talked to people who I've never seen flustered and they say, yes, I think today's the day that it's not going to happen. But they also say it's kind of like thinking about like the ocean, you know how to swim, but never get too comfortable about going in the water because you always have to prepare. You always have to be ready. And so that's the other element of the doubt that's also telling you don't mail it in today.
100%. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
So let's talk about the book. It comes out on August 5th. And as I said, we're right here in the middle of vacation season. It's a great opportunity to grab a good read and kind of get remotivated, re-energized, whether or not you're on vacation. I think it's a great way to build up to go to the NACS Show and just be super confident about finding great ideas. So give us the whole title. Give us anything else we need to know about the book.
Yeah, so the title is Confident by Choice, 3 Small Decisions to Build Everyday Courage. And it comes out August 5th. Super pumped. And like the fact that it's in the middle of the year, where it's like not January 1st, it's that time where people are like, okay, I need to sort of reset for the fall. That's why we wanted it like August, September, around there. And it's been really cool to see. We've signed 3 international deals. It's going to launch in Japan, in Korea, and in Slovakia. Harvard Review just did a feature like 2 days ago. Rolling Stone is going to do a feature, which is just crazy. I found out a few days ago.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's awesome. I'm super excited. And it is something, the team that we worked with, the writing team, the research team, the team over at Penguin Random House have just been extraordinary. It's been a 2.5-year process in the making. I did the audiobook in studio 2 weeks ago, so it is my voice, which I had to fight for. I was like, I'm a speaker. This has to be a thing. So the Audible is going to be great, and yeah, I'm just excited. August 5th, anywhere you buy books, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Million Books, obviously Penguin Random House, but all of the major book places have it for pre-order now, and then we'll have it for launch day.
And maybe look at the auctioneers if somebody's saying, hey, I really would like this book to be 20 minutes or less read. And maybe you could find one of those guys, just kind of dance right through it and they're good to go just on the
version.
Yeah.
That's genius.
So
or actually get them to auction the book.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yes. So one final thing, and when you spoke last year, you were fantastic. And you also said, anybody that wants to reach out to me, I'm available. So, and you responded, because I've talked to people who said, yeah, I was surprised. People say that and they don't follow up, but you do. So beyond the book, how do they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram are my 2 platforms that I hang out the most. My website as well, but you were totally right. I only do around, this year is closer to 60 to 70 events a year, so that I can be available, because I know the conversations afterwards. I was talking to someone from NACS a week and a half ago via email. They responded to the newsletter. Like, it's just so cool to be able to have those conversations. So anything you need, genuinely, I'm not just saying that. Send me a LinkedIn DM, send me an Instagram DM, and I'm pretty quick with it in a few days if I'm on a plane, on a stage, whatever it is. But I love being able to talk to people about these ideas and build those connections. And from the NACS, I still probably like once every other week, I'll talk either on LinkedIn or Instagram. I will talk to someone from NACS. Like, it is one of those events where it's just been such an awesome community to have been a part of, and to be a part of. It's awesome.
Well, let's keep that momentum going. And I really appreciate your time, because you got a lot of obligations there, and you took time when we reached out to you about this. And thanks again for joining us today.
100%. Jeff, thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone listening. Hope you have an incredible summer.
Well, normally I have my own ending, but I love the way you ended that, so I'm just going to say same thing.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.